So as everyone's getting ready for the holidays, putting up those decorations, maybe sipping some eggnog,
Definitely getting into the spirit.
have you ever stopped to think about where these traditions actually come from?
Yeah.
Why a tree and why is Christmas on December 25th?
Yeah, it's easy to just go with the flow.
Right, exactly. So we're going to do a deep dive today into all the surprising history and the different ways Christmas is celebrated around the world. Starting with
A little diversity?
Yeah, starting with this really cool Britannica Kids article about Christmas.
Oh, nice. Britannica Kids, I like it.
Yeah, it's a great resource. Get ready to unwrap some really fascinating facts about the holiday.
Ooh, I love it. Unwrap.
So first things first, the word Christmas itself. It actually comes from this Old English term Christus Mess, which basically means Christ's Mass.
Right.
Pretty simple, straightforward.
Makes sense.
But here's where it gets kind of interesting. The date we celebrate Christmas on, December 25th, well, it's not as set in stone as you might think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So early Christians, way back in the day, the Eastern Church, which was centered in Constantinople, they celebrated Jesus' birth on January 6th.
Okay.
And they called it Epiphany.
Interesting.
But at the same time, the Western Church in Rome, they chose December 25th. So we've got two different dates here.
Okay, so how did we end up with both?
Yeah, so how do we get 12 days of Christmas? Well, by the late 300s, both branches of the church, they started celebrating each other's festivals.
Okay.
So that's actually how we got this 12-day festive period from Christmas all the way to Epiphany.
Oh, wow.
And that way it acknowledges both of those interpretations, right?
Dude,
within the faith.
That's so cool. I just never really put that together. It's like a compromise almost.
It is. It's a great example of how religious practices can evolve over time and kind of blend different traditions together, right?
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder if other traditions have similar blended origins. Let's talk about gift giving. So obviously we've got Santa Claus, right? Big guy in red. Everyone knows Santa.
Right.
But the Britannica Kids article, it actually mentions this tradition in Spain and Italy where kids leave their shoes out
Oh, yeah.
for the wise men to deliver gifts
I've heard of that.
on the night of January 5th.
Instead of stockings,
Yeah.
it's shoes.
They're shoes. So different.
Very different. But it's still kind of the same idea. It's that anticipation
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
of receiving a gift no matter who it's from.
Exactly. It's fascinating how different cultures, they kind of put their own spin on this whole idea of giving, right?
Right.
Leaving shoes out versus waiting for Santa and his reindeer on Christmas Eve.
Right.
But it's all about generosity and celebration just expressed in these really unique ways.
I love that.
Speaking of unique, let's talk about the Christmas tree.
Okay.
We bring this giant evergreen into our homes. We cover it with all these shiny baubles and tinsel.
Love it.
But why? Where'd this come from?
Right. It's a tree?
It's a tree in our living room. So the modern Christmas tree, it actually evolved from two separate German traditions, believe it or not.
Wow.
The first is called the Paradise tree.
Okay.
That was a fir tree used in these plays depicting Adam and Eve.
Yeah, okay.
And that was on December 24th.
Interesting.
And then the second tradition was the Christmas pyramid. This one was a wooden structure, and it was decorated with evergreens, candles, and a star.
Oh, wow.
So over time, these two traditions, they kind of blended together.
They morph.
They morphed, yeah, into the Christmas tree we know today.
That is fascinating.
It's so interesting, right, to think about the cultural and religious beliefs that might have shaped those original German traditions.
Right. Yeah.
Were they purely symbolic? Or did they have deeper meanings tied to ancient beliefs about evergreens?
Right. We could go down a rabbit hole.
We could, right.
Yeah. And it really makes you think about all those layers of meaning that we might not even be aware of when we're, putting up our own Christmas tree.
Totally.
Yeah.
And get this, it wasn't until Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, in the 19th century, that the Christmas tree became really popular in the UK.
Oh, wow.
So their influence really helped make it this global symbol that it is today.
I see. So they were trendsetters.
They were. Speaking of global, it's summertime in the Southern Hemisphere during Christmas.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
It's easy to forget.
So can you imagine celebrating Christmas with a barbecue on the beach in Australia?
Yeah.
Or watching fireworks under a warm Brazilian sky?
Wow, that's a totally different.
It is. It's a very different picture. It challenges our Northern Hemisphere centric view
Yeah, exactly.
of what a traditional Christmas is supposed to look like.
It's so funny how we always think of Christmas as snowy and cold.
Right. with the fire going.
Yeah, exactly.
And, they're probably out there having picnics and swimming.
Right.
But even though the setting is so different,
Mhm.
it's summer versus winter,
Yeah.
it seems like the spirit of togetherness, that generosity,
It's universal?
it remains universal. It's still there.
Totally. Yeah. That's really interesting. And I think it speaks to like the adaptability of traditions, right?
Yeah.
And how they can like fit different environments, different customs. It's really cool.
Totally. And even without the snow and the cold weather, those core values of the holiday, they still shine through.
I love that. They shine through.
They do. So this brings us to another universal element of celebration: food.
Yes. My favorite part.
So the article, it mentions a bunch of different regional delicacies,
What's
right?
that?
Like in Britain, you've got your mince pies and your Christmas cake.
Oh, yeah.
In
Classic.
France, there's bûche de Noël, which is that like beautiful log-shaped cake.
Delicious.
And then in Mexico, you've got buñuelos, which are these little fritters, and they're usually dusted with cinnamon.
Oh, wow.
So, so good. So different.
Right. All these different things.
Yeah.
But it's so cool to see how different parts of the world, they kind of express their Christmas spirit through these unique flavors and like culinary customs, you know?
It's true.
Each dish, it has its own history, its own symbolism. It adds this whole other like sensory dimension to the holiday.
It's like the food is telling a story.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like each bite is a little piece of Christmas history.
I love that.
It's amazing how even something as simple as a Christmas dessert can hold so much cultural significance.
That's powerful. Yeah, food is powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to that power of food to connect us to our heritage, you know, to create these shared experiences with family and friends.
And to make memories.
And to make memories, exactly. So amidst all these like diverse traditions that we've been talking about,
Yeah.
it's important to remember the holidays, you know, religious roots.
Yeah.
For a lot of Christians worldwide, Christmas is a time for like really special church services. Yeah. Especially at the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem,
Oh, of course.
which, as we know, is built on the site where Jesus is believed to have been born.
Right.
And the services held there during Christmas, they're particularly significant. I mean, they draw pilgrims from all over the world. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder of like the origins of the holiday and its deep religious meaning for so many people.
I see that.
It's really remarkable how Christmas manages to like weave together the sacred and the secular, right?
It does.
There's something for everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your personal beliefs are. There's something about Christmas that resonates with everyone.
It's true. It's like this really cool, like, tapestry of history and culture, and it's all woven together
It is.
to make this holiday.
It is. It's like a reminder that we're all part of something much bigger than ourselves, connected by these shared human experiences that go beyond, geography, cultural differences.
Yeah. So as we continue, like, exploring this world of Christmas traditions, what are your thoughts so far? Like, what's standing out to you?
I'm really intrigued by this whole idea that something as like seemingly simple as a Christmas tree or a plate of cookies can hold so much like history and cultural significance. It makes me want to like dive deeper into the specific stories behind those traditions.
It's fascinating.
It is. But before we, get too carried away
Yeah.
with like visions of sugar plums and all those carols, we've got a lot more to unpack. So let's move on to another really interesting aspect of Christmas: the figure of Santa Claus himself.
Okay, let's do it. So Santa Claus, right? He's like the Christmas icon.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't really picture Christmas without thinking of Santa.
totally. But it's kind of funny when you think about it, like beyond the North Pole and all the elves and the whole workshop thing, there's a whole backstory there. Like, where did this whole Santa Claus thing even come from?
Right. It goes way back. So most people think Santa Claus is actually based on a real person,
Yeah.
St. Nicholas. He was a 4th century Greek bishop.
Wow, so we're talking ancient history here.
Yeah, and he was known for incredibly generous, especially towards children. There are tons of stories about like his kindness and compassion.
Okay, so we've got a 4th century bishop who's known for being generous.
Right.
How does that transform into, like, the jolly red-suited Santa we know today?
That's where things get interesting.
Yeah.
So the legend of St. Nicholas, it basically spread throughout Europe. It kept evolving and changing as it went from culture to culture.
So everyone kind of added their own twist to the story.
Exactly. Like in the Netherlands, they called him Sinterklaas. And he arrived by steamboat with his helper, Zwarte Piet.
Hold on, steamboat?
Steamboat.
That's not exactly the sleigh we're used to.
Right. It's wild how each culture kind of personalized the story. It's like they molded it to fit their own traditions and beliefs.
I guess that makes sense.
Then in the 19th century, things really took a turn. This is when American writers and illustrators, they really ran with the Santa story. Clement Clark Moore, he wrote this poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, and it basically painted this image of Santa riding a sleigh, delivering presents through chimneys.
Oh, yeah. That's the one everyone knows.
Right. And then artists like Thomas Nast, they came along with these iconic illustrations. That's how we got the whole picture. The white beard, the twinkling eyes, the round belly.
And, of course, the red suit.
Of course,
Mm.
it all came together.
It's kind of wild to think how much things have changed over the centuries, right?
It is. It shows you how powerful stories can be, how cultures can shape them. And now Santa Claus is this global icon. It's like he represents that feeling of magic and wonder, especially during Christmas.
Speaking of magic and wonder, the Britannica Kids article didn't mention much about Christmas carols or decorations. I'm kind of curious, like, how did those become part of the whole Christmas tradition?
Oh yeah, those have deep roots too, like Christmas carols. They actually started as religious songs back in medieval times.
Yeah.
People used to sing them in Latin in churches.
So we're talking serious, solemn music here.
Yeah, pretty much. But over time, they transformed into the festive songs we know today. They got mixed with folk traditions and popular melodies, and boom, Christmas carols.
So we went from, like, hymns in Latin to jingle bells and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Exactly. It's pretty amazing, right?
It is. What about decorations?
Those are cool too. A lot of them have like symbolic meanings tied to ancient beliefs. For example, evergreens, think holly and mistletoe, people used them way before Christmas even existed.
Really?
Yeah. They were symbols of life and hope during those dark winter months.
So there's, like, a deeper meaning behind all that tinsel and those wreaths.
Oh, totally. And think about Christmas lights.
Oh, yeah, those are a must.
Right. So back in the day, people used candles to light up their homes and churches during Christmas time. It was a way of representing the light of Christ coming into the world. Today, we use electric lights, but the tradition is still there. It's all about creating that feeling of warmth and festivity.
So even with modern updates, those core meanings are still there.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes Christmas traditions so fascinating. They're passed down from generation to generation, and they evolve, but they still hold on to those core symbols.
It's like they help create that special Christmas atmosphere that everyone loves.
Right. And it doesn't matter if you're celebrating in like a snowy village in Europe or on a beach in Australia.
Yeah.
That sense of wonder and enchantment, it's everywhere. It brings people together.
It's a good reminder that even with all the differences in the world, there's still so much that connects us, like these shared experiences and traditions that go beyond borders and cultures.
That makes you think about how Christmas is celebrated differently around the world, right? Like, what does it actually mean to people from different backgrounds and cultures?
Absolutely. All these unique traditions, they add up to one big global experience. And even with all the variations, those core values, the generosity, the compassion, the togetherness, they're still there no matter where you are.
It's really powerful.
It is. And it's not just about those big ideas, right?
Right.
It's also about those personal connections, those family traditions.
The memories.
The memories, exactly. So I'm curious, do you have any, like, personal traditions or memories that really stand out for you during Christmas time? Maybe some family customs that have been passed down?
You know what I've always loved? Storytelling. It's become like a tradition in my family. During the holidays, we always share stories about past Christmases, some funny, some heartwarming.
Oh, I love that. It's like connecting with your family history.
Exactly. And it's a chance to create new memories together, too.
What kind of stories does your family usually share?
Oh, we have a whole mix. Everything from like hilarious gift-giving fails to those really heartwarming moments of generosity and kindness. There's this one story that always comes up about my great-grandmother. She didn't have much, but she always made Christmas special for her kids. She'd spend weeks knitting them mittens and scarves, and those handmade gifts, they meant more than anything store-bought ever could.
That's such a beautiful story. It really captures the true spirit of giving, right? Like, it's not about how much you spend or what you buy, but about that love and care you put into something. What about you? Do you have any, like, favorite Christmas memories or traditions that come to mind?
Storytelling, that's such a cool tradition. My family were a little more on the chaotic side.
Oh, yeah.
So our Christmas memories are less about those sweet homemade gifts and more about like surviving our annual gingerbread house competition.
Gingerbread house competition, that's fun.
It is, it is. But things can get pretty intense.
A bit.
Let's just say our gingerbread houses usually end up looking more like abstract art than actual houses. So, not exactly Pinterest-worthy.
Definitely not. But hey, at least they're memorable, right?
I think that's what matters.
It totally is. But it actually brings up something we've been talking about this whole time. Christmas is this, like, global celebration, but it's also super personal.
Right.
We've got those shared traditions like Santa and the tree,
Yeah.
but they end up taking on, like, different meanings, different forms.
They evolved.
They evolve, yeah, depending on where you are, who you're with.
Exactly. That's what makes Christmas so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
If that mix of the universal and the personal, you know?
Yeah, I
It's
get
like we're all part of this giant tapestry of traditions, but we're also adding our own little unique threads to it.
I love that, the tapestry. So where does that leave us?
Wow.
What's the takeaway from all this? We've gone from the origins of the word Christmas to all these global feasts and traditions.
Right.
From like how Santa evolved to the symbolism behind all those decorations. It's been a journey.
It really has. And for me, I think it shows you how much traditions are always changing.
Yeah.
They adapt. They take on new influences. And they end up reflecting who we are, you know, as individuals and as this whole global community.
I like that.
It's like looking through a kaleidoscope, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You see familiar patterns, but they're always shifting and changing, making something new and beautiful.
That's a great way to put it. And it reminds us that even when the world feels, divided,
Yeah.
we're all connected by these shared human experiences. Like those go way beyond just borders and cultures, right?
Totally. So this Christmas, when you're with your family and friends, enjoying your own traditions,
Yeah.
take a moment to think about all the history and culture that have shaped this holiday.
Right.
What do those traditions mean to you? How do your celebrations fit into that global story of Christmas?
It's a good reminder that Christmas isn't really about the presents or the fancy decorations.
Right.
It's about that spirit of giving, that kindness, that love.
Yeah.
And those are things we can carry with us all year round.
That's the most important part.
Totally agree. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Christmas traditions, I want to leave everyone with one final thought. When you're gathered with your loved ones this holiday season,
Yep.
really think about what Christmas means to you.
What traditions are most important to you?
Right. What traditions do you cherish? How do your celebrations connect to this whole global story?
And how can you keep that spirit of Christmas alive all year long?
Exactly. Happy holidays, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of Christmas.